So, Chris, this is Minus the Hangover, episode 8, After Hours.
That's right.
So it's been a week since we recorded episode 8, where you presented our list of best-selling NoLo beers worldwide.
That's right, yeah.
We've listened back to that episode, and we're here to talk about it and anything else that's come up in the meantime.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I just want to say before we jump in, you might hear my cat Lenny going a little bit mad and meowing.
Oh dear.
He's been left on his own all day, and actually quite a lot lately, and he gets ever so lonely. So, you know, Pete, at least you know why. That's why. He's not actually as neglected as he would have you believe, I promise you.
You haven't shut him in the wardrobe or anything like that.
No, he's got the run of the house, but he just wants a lap. That's all he wants.
Fair enough. Okay, so yes, episode 8. Any reflections?
Well, obviously this was an episode that I led, and it was quite a big one, actually, wasn't it?
Yes.
Listening back to it, I hope I was able to capture the sense of that it was actually quite tricky to put that list together, and but do a good enough job. I don't know. I can't really judge that, so it's up to you, man. What did you think? I suppose that's the real question.
Yeah, so when we first talked about this, I think you came up with the idea, and we both thought that it was quite a nice kind of fluffy episode. Make a list, find out for some kind of fun facts about some beers, and it wouldn't take very long to put to.
Yes, a kind of romp around the world, if you like.
Exactly that. Whereas actually, I think you made a rod for your own back, quite frankly.
Well, there's a surprise.
Because, it's really, really, really difficult to get hold of any solid information about how of these beers sell in relation to each other.
Yeah, and, I was really reluctant to have that whole kind of preamble at the start. But there was just no way round it. I had to kind of make the point that it's A-list, and I know that seems like such a trifling distinction. Like, what difference does it make?
Or a cop-out. Cop-out.
Well, or a cop-out, exactly. But that was the thing. It's like, look, I would rather throw my hands in the air, own it, and say, okay, it's as definitive as it can be, but it's not definitive. It's just kind of my best stab at doing it. And like you say, we had talked about it being this light and fluffy thing, and I had planned my time accordingly, and had found myself going, this is taking ages and a lot of work. So you're completely right to flag that up.
It's kind of difficult as a listener to really appreciate quite how hard it is as well. I mean, if you actually go online, there are no kind of league tables, as it were. It's not as if it's like the Premiership table or something like that. You know exactly who's at number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on.
I'll just pop it into Google, and I'll quickly and easily lift this data, and that'll be sacrosanct. And there you go, Bob's your uncle. That's our episode.
It just doesn't exist, basically.
No.
And, I know there's at least kind of like 2 really good reasons for that, because I had a quick look at one specific fact. So you had to look up dozens of different facts about stuff.
Hundreds, I would say. Hundreds.
And there's only kind of like one thing that I wanted to look up, which was the Heineken share. I flagged it in the episode that I felt that the 18% of NoLo sales worldwide as being Heineken doesn't really pass the kind of sniff test for me. Now,
fair enough, yeah.
I found the source of those numbers. I mean, I know that Heineken mentioned it in a press release of theirs, so obviously take that with a pinch of salt.
Well, yes, exactly.
but then also, so there are these business intelligence companies that are out there that generate reports which are aimed at like industry
that's
companies, and these things, so they get compiled, and it costs you like about $3,000 to get a copy of it. So obviously it's not aimed at us consumers, and you can't find all this information free on the net. And one of these also quoted the 18% figure, but only in the kind of the free preamble that was available. Obviously, I wasn't going to pay $3,000 or pounds or whatever it was to prove this figure wrong.
It's stretching our micro budget a touch.
A little bit, absolutely. But one thing I did notice actually was that in this particular report as well, it said that the total worldwide kind of market for NoLo beers was $8 billion.
Oh, right.
And so it reckoned that Heineken controlled 18.6% of that. So that's $1.5 billion of NoLo beer sales.
Okay.
So if that's correct, that would be, and I looked up, okay, so how much beer did Heineken sell in this year, which was 2024? And they sold $40 billion worth of beer.
Right.
So essentially that's, by doing the maths, that means that the implication is that 4% of Heineken's sales were NoLo. So 4%, were NoLo, 96% were standard. And that's not completely out of...
I think that correlates quite plausibly to where they're at.
I mean, that's very high. So basically in the UK, for example, it's more like 1.5%. So 4% is, 2 or 3 times higher. So it's not enough for me to say, no, that's absolute nonsense at all.
Let me just jump in, because wasn't it the Guinness one said that their NoLo is now 3% of their sales? So 4% doesn't seem like a massive stretch to go from a 3% to a 4%. But I don't know, that doesn't necessarily jump out as being glaringly wrong.
Well, the problem is that because Heineken never actually tell you how much of their sales are NoLo versus standard as well.
Me. I know.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is, if it was such a big proportion, if it was Guinness levels, then they would probably tell you. But again, I'm not saying it's definitely untrue. I'm just saying it's basically, it could be true, maybe not. But then Heineken themselves reckon that in 2024, that there weren't $8 billion sold in total worldwide. They reckon $13.7 billion in total for all of the NoLo beer sales worldwide.
Right.
And again, plugging that into Heineken's own figures would mean that 6% of their sales are NoLo.
Oh, okay.
Which again, I don't really believe.
No, and actually, no, I don't believe that either. That is getting ridiculous.
I found a third report.
Oh, man. Oh, come on.
Which basically said that $22 billion of NoLo beers were sold.
Hang on. Let me guess the ending of this one. It's a very large number and it doesn't stack up.
It doesn't stack up, but for different reasons. This particular report said $22 billion worth of NoLo beer sales in total for everyone in the entire world. But it reckoned that, and this again I don't believe for the opposite reason, it reckoned that Heineken only sold like 1.2% of NoLo beer sales, which again I don't believe, because that's too low. If it said like 8%, I'd have gone, well, okay, that sounds very plausible, or like 5 or something.
So you've done an amazing thing there. You have discredited the factual content of my entire report. Well, maybe not the entire report, but you have completely justified everything I said about how difficult it is, because even they can't agree.
No, absolutely.
And they're spending thousands and thousands on it.
I mean, to the point that this particular report reckons that the market is so fragmented that the top 10 breweries, all these massive multinationals, only control a total of 10% of the market, which cannot be true, right? That cannot be true. Like, just on the face of it, absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I don't really have a response to that. I think you're right, but I wouldn't be able to pluck a figure out of thin air and say, well, maybe it should be this. Or if they said this, it would be more plausible. I don't know.
No, sure, absolutely. I think the overall point is that all of these figures for overall sales, they're all estimated. They're not made up, because hopefully these people have some kind of methodology they can point to and say, here's what we did, here's why we think, we know it's a guess, but it's within some margin of error.
Well, and we do know that companies do have to, as much as they put a positive spin on things, they do have to abide by certain kind of honesty laws with declaring things to their stakeholders and things. So that was the primary source of a lot of the data I used, was what's gone out to stakeholders. And they can't just openly be completely fabricating all the figures. They might put a positive spin on and things like that. But yes, there's a line in there. And again, I tried to address that, but it's difficult to make that point with any kind of weight, I suppose. Yeah,
I mean, this comes to kind of the second reason, though, like which you already pointed out, which is basically the total sales they can't lie about, but they won't tell you what the mix is. So they don't tell you what the NoLo brands are. And also, Heineken have got a dozen brands of NoLo drinks, and they don't tell you which of those brands makes up any kind of proportion as well. So all in all, it's essentially an impossible task. Except you can come up with a list which is at least plausible, which I think you did, by the way. And I think it had, good logic behind the list that you produced, given the limitations of the whole endeavour, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean, it was, as I said, it was definitely an interpretation. And actually, it raised another interesting point, because when it came to editing the episode, there was quite a big chunk that we cut out.
That's right. Yes.
So
just for time purposes.
Well, that's it, because it was not ballooning. That's the wrong word. But okay, so the part I'm talking about was the notable mentions and the omissions. So the things that didn't quite make the list, the brands that didn't make the list, or the ones that are worthy of mentioning, but for some reason couldn't be on the main list. But also how there was some that were just kind of missing that we expected to be on there.
That's right.
And it occurred to me, Pete, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but it occurred to me, because I still like that little chunk of content.
Sure. Well, we've recorded it. You compiled the data when we actually recorded it.
Exactly. And I still think there's a little point to it. So what do you think? Shall we add it onto the end of this After Hours? So that people can listen to it. It's like a sort of
sure.
deleted scene, if you like.
Like DVD extras.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's do that. Yes, absolutely. I'll add it onto the end once we finish recording.
Nice, there you go. Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Excellent. Good. So, in terms of the other parts of the episode, I have a slight bone to pick with you, Chris, over the pronunciation of the word riband or riband.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yes,
right, go on
yes. Well, so I'm pretty sure that it's pronounced riband. I know that's the way I've always done it. And when we recorded the episode, you kind of stopped me and said, no, Pete, riband. So,
riband.
Oh, okay, no, fair enough. Well, Chris has got the master's degree in an arty subject, so he obviously knows the pronunciation. And so I went with it, although actually I did try and pronounce it riband, and then you corrected me again. And then apparently I said it correctly the third time. I couldn't tell what the difference was, but you assured me that finally I'd pronounced it correctly.
It was getting closer to what I thought that pronunciation was, but are you going to tell me that it's actually wrong and I was wrong?
I'm pretty sure it's riband. Because, and the reason I think that is because essentially I spent about 15 minutes online trying to figure out if it was actually riband or riband. Right, there is a word.
Pete, hang on. That's a lot of time to spend on the pedants really are revolting in this one.
Indeed. Well, I go down rabbit holes frequently, and this is one of those. So there is a word called ribband, which is essentially like the rib of a ship. And that is pronounced like essentially rib band. But the ribbon that we're talking about, which is, essentially like a ribbon.
Yes.
So, I mean, the OED, Cambridge Dictionaries, Collins, all reckon it's riband.
You really did go down a rabbit hole.
I did. I thought, is it American English or is it British? It's both. Both the Americans, and it's one of the rare instances of transatlantic kind of like, high-fiving across the pond. We both...
my luck. My luck.
Indeed, you could have got away with that. And then even I was thinking, well, I wonder if, like back in the day, when the blue ribbon was being kind of like essentially awarded, because they stopped in the 50s, was it pronounced riband at the time? No, it wasn't, because I thought, I wonder if like a British Pathé has got one of the, the old sort of like newsreel things.
Really?
So I didn't like pay for like a British Pathé subscription or anything like that. It was on YouTube for free.
But you just had to get that metaphorical knife and stick it in my ribs and twist it. You just had to. Thanks, buddy.
So I'm pretty sure it's riband. So what's your excuse?
You're a northerner living in the south and you have no idea how words should be pronounced. So
right, okay, yeah, that's
my natural.
That's true. This is true.
Okay, all I will say is actually, this is a terrible excuse. It's not an excuse. It's an account of why I think it's pronounced riband.
Yes.
I 100% blame my mum. Now, my mum's I do. And she's an easy target. And I hope
she's not here to speak up for herself, is she?
Exactly. Actually, she's in Australia at the moment, so I'll get her to report back from that. Anyway, there used to be a blue kind of wafery biscuit.
That's right.
And I remember calling it a riband, and she corrected me. And I remember her doing it, saying, no, it's riband. And it sounds so made up that I have that specific memory, but I really do.
Well, no, that's the kind of thing that's quite formative. Not formative in the sense of it's going to change you, but it's formative in the sense that we just had a 5-minute conversation about how to pronounce the word on a podcast. So, yeah.
But the thing is, the difference between you and I is, Pete, she said that, and I went, oh, I just sort of took that on board. You took it on board, stewed on it for days, can't be true. Lost nights, presumably, of sleep, and then went down not just a rabbit hole. Come on, you disappeared for several days. Be honest.
Indeed,
be honest.
It's true. It's
emerged, blinking and sweaty into the daylight, armed with this knowledge to come and get me. Own up.
Well, I'm glad we've got it sorted. Anyway,
well, look, okay, I'll hold my hands up then. I apologise. I corrected you incorrectly. It's all on me. You're still a northerner living in the south. There's a lot I have to live with.
Well, I say castle and butter and incorrect things like that. It's very true. It's very true. But then I don't try and persuade you that castle is the only way to pronounce it.
No, but getting you to talk in a Cockney accent is one of life's pure joys.
And I'm not going to do it right now.
No.
Right, moving swiftly on. Also in the episode, I cut out a part. We were tasting the Heineken Zero.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of made the point, and I believe this is what you thought, and I think I thought it too, that basically the Heineken Zero sort of smelled kind of sweeter than the standard Heineken. Now, this didn't make...
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
This didn't make it into the episode itself because it actually reminded me of a conversation that I'd had with a friend based on a previous podcast. They'd listened to the podcast and we'd described a previous beer smelling sweet, or it might have even been a wine. I can't quite remember, to be honest. But and then this person said to me, so I can't actually smell the sweetness of things, can you? And I thought about it and I thought, I think I can, but you know what I'm going to do? Do you know what rabbit hole I'm going to go down when I go back home onto the internet?
And I bet you did.
And I absolutely did.
3 days later, he emerges blinking and sweaty.
And I was only reminded of this when I was listening through and editing this last episode, episode 8. And so basically that's when I went down the rabbit hole. I'm pretty sure that we can't smell any of sort of the cardinal tastes. So we can't smell like, sweet or sour or bitter or salt or umami.
Oh.
Now, what we can do is we can smell kind of like aromatic compounds that kind of are normally associated with that taste. Okay. So if you smelt something like fruity or smelt caramelly, your mind thinks, okay, that only really comes from sweet things.
Yes, so it smells sweet. Yes, it connects the dots for us.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not we're literally think we're smelling sweetness or we're just reminded of it, and that's just a more conscious mental connection that we're making. I'm not, if you saw what I mean, I'm not sure the depth of that or not. But yes, it is apparently true that we can't smell the cardinal tastes.
Now, I think I'm not particularly disagreeing with you on that, other than when you have an awful cold and you can't smell anything, you can't really taste anything either, because smell's a massive part of what you're tasting. And you can definitely taste sweet things. So could it be that some of the smell is coming down kind of onto your tongue, but just from the sinus entrance, as it were?
Well, so I looked into sort of how the whole experience works, because obviously you've got sort of 3 stages to it. You've got the initial smell. So when the smell's coming from outside your body into your nose, and at that point, you apparently can't smell or taste these particular, cardinal
Yes.
basic tastes. And then you put it in your mouth, and then you should be able to detect sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami on your tongue.
Yeah.
But there's a third kind of thing, and it's called retronasal smell. And that's when the the aroma compounds that are in your mouth, the food or drink that's in your mouth, they go into your nose from within, because obviously your mouth and your nose are connected, and that's where most of the kind of your tasting happens, the whole kind of picture of it.
Yeah, okay.
And do you remember the wine episode where we had it was the McGuigan's Sauvignon Blanc? And you kind of swallowed, and then immediately it was like bang, that really big explosion. I think that's what this was, because as soon as you allowed those vapors from your mouth to go up to your nose, that's when it all absolutely kind of exploded.
And that's when it happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like almost like a 3-stage thing.
I mean, my instinct is that that's absolutely 100% right for all of them, except sweetness, weirdly. I still feel like when I smell that, I'm smelling it sweet. But, the brain is amazing, and it does make those sorts of connections, and I'm not going to call you out. You've done days down a rabbit hole on this one, clearly.
Indeed.
And I haven't. So that's just my gut reaction. I'm not saying that's wrong at all. I'm taking it on board. But I do remember smelling that, and I remember that it smelt sweeter. So there's clearly a mechanism going on that then feels very intuitive, but isn't quite the real picture. Fair enough, man.
Another thing that we mentioned in the episode was that the NoLo lagers, or two of them, the first one was very different, obviously, but the Peroni and the Heineken, they were both good, and they both did a good job. And what else can you say, basically, other than the fact that they do a very good job at kind of replicating their standard counterparts?
Yeah, it's true. Do you mean, is it worth revisiting things or not?
So, in terms of, obviously, at the moment, what we're doing is we are dedicating kind of up to 10 or even 12, 15 minutes to tasting
that's right.
one of these. And these kind of like lagers are, as I say, essentially a solved problem. It's rarer for us to find a lager which actually doesn't taste lagerish or actually doesn't taste very good.
Particularly one that is popular, that's clearly doing well.
Yeah, no, that's it. And now we can't find Bud Zero anymore. Then, I can't think of one that I've had in recent memory where I've actually thought that's terrible, or conversely, that's like the best thing since sliced bread. We're kind of spoilt now. So I do wonder whether or not sort of this sort of class of drink, or maybe even just a lot of NoLo drinks in general, aren't worth dedicating kind of 10 or 15 minutes to. And maybe it's the more unusual ones, or the ones, I don't know, with a story attached. I don't know.
Well, actually, the story, that's just what I was thinking about. So whenever, obviously, we pick a drink to do, a part of it is like, do we have anything to say about it when we do a tasting, rather than just taste it?
That's what we've said, absolutely.
And that can be a little bit difficult to know before going in and doing that research. But generally, we do have a sense of that. There's an angle, there's a story, there's something we can get it into, sink our teeth into.
Yes, absolutely.
And I did do that with a lot of these. So I actually completely agree. And it's, is it worth revisiting them? I would say it is, but in a very stripped down way. Like, we managed to get hold of it. We've touched on it before. Here's a very quick impression of what we think of it, rather than going kind of full down one of your rabbit holes. Well, maybe not that long, but even doing like a full tasting on to the length that we normally do. So, part of me as a completist would like to revisit them, because I think it's nice to have mentioned them and then be able to say, actually, this is what we think, thumbs up, thumbs down. But I think you're completely right to flag that up. Yeah, it's not worth getting right into with all of them, because A, we know the masses like them, so they're probably decent. They might not be. Bud Zero is a good example of one we didn't like that is a big seller. But generally, we can kind of probably assume that they are. But also, we've touched on the story as well. So is there that much to get into? It's a fair point.
Yeah, and as I say, not just kind of the lagers that we talked about in the episode, but other drinks as well, which are kind of okay, but not special. And if they're from like a big manufacturer who doesn't really have anything interesting that we haven't either spoken about already or just full stop, then maybe we need to look at covering them in a different way, like you say. So we'll have to think about that, and maybe in the coming weeks or months we'll think about a different format or something like that to cover those kind of drinks.
I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll bash our heads together, see
Indeed.
what we come up with.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about episode 8. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think actually we got into quite a lot there, more than I thought we had to talk about. But that was interesting and nice to reflect back on an episode that I, very much led, but have now a different perspective on, and not just the pronunciations of things.
Indeed.
Yeah, nice one. It was interesting and a nice diversion.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's end it there then. So, thanks very much for the conversation.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Bye-bye now. And now, for anyone still listening, we're going to bring you the cut content, or the deleted scene, as it were, from episode 8, which was, of course, our list of NoLo best-selling beers. And the scene we cut out was the notable mentions and omissions that didn't quite make the cut for time. So, listen now. Now, before we press on to the top spot, number 1, I've got a few notable mentions here. Now, I'm just going to rattle through these quite quickly, but again, when I was compiling this list, certain names, certain brands kept popping up. It was difficult to know how to slot them in. So the first of which was Coors with their NoLo brand Coors Edge. Now, I've not had this. It seems to sell almost exclusively in the US.
Okay.
And again, that problem of, well, it's not really on a global scale, except the US is a pretty big market for it, and it seems to do pretty well in the US. So it was hard to factor that in. So just to mention, have you had it, Pete?
No, I've never even heard of it, to be honest.
No, fair enough. The next one, notable mention, Big Drop Brewing Co. Now, these were founded in 2016. They are a UK company, and they claim to be the first brewer dedicated exclusively to non-alcoholic craft beer. Now, that might sound contentious, but remember, of course, Lucky Saint is brewed in Germany. So, as a UK brewer, what do you think to that claim?
That sounds very plausible to me. And actually, I think Lucky Saint came out in 2017 or 2018. So, if they say 2016, then that sounds very plausible that the first dedicated NoLo craft beer brewer. I mean, there's a lot of qualification there. You've got dedicated,
sure,
and then you've got craft. But yes, they've certainly been around a while. I know a lot of their products have reviewed very well. I've not tried many of them because a lot of them contain lactose, which is milk sugar, and are therefore not vegan. But I've had at least one of theirs, which is vegan friendly, and it was very nice indeed.
Well, their beers contain a maximum of 0.5% ABV. Their offerings include a Galactica dry hopped lager, Paradiso Citra IPA, and Pine Trail Pale Ale. And it's very much seen as an emerging, rising player in the market, but then again, aren't so many of them. So again, really hard for me to drop into this list, and probably not quite on the echelons of Lucky Saint, which only squeaked in at 10th place. Next up, notable mention, Brooklyn Brewery. Now, this will be familiar to lots of people for their standard beers. Their NoLo version is Special Effects. Now, they launched Special Effects in 2018. It's an alcohol-free IPA brewed with Cascade, Centennial, Citra, and Amarillo hops. Now, I'm familiar with some of those, but I'm not sure I've ever had Centennial.
Yeah, they're pretty popular US hops. You'll see them in a lot of IPAs and basically anything described as an American pale ale or anything like that. They're nice hops. They're good. And the beer itself, I'm not going to tell you what it's like. I have had it before. I think we're going to review it in the not too distant future. So maybe we'll leave it till then.
I think we should. Let's leave it at that. Now, next up is the Bravus Brewing Company. Again, this is a shout out to a notable mention, but they also have a contentious claim that relates back to the Athletic Brewing Company. So, founded in 2015, Bravus claims to be North America's largest non-alcoholic craft brewer. But that's also what Athletic Brewing said as well. So I don't know. It's how do you measure that? It's really difficult. They're both making the claim. There must be something to that, or they're very close to each other. I don't know. Their beers contain less than 0.05% ABV, so very, very low. The lineup includes oatmeal stout, amber ale, IPA, and white ale styles. And just lastly, on the notable mentions, I want to bring up a Vietnamese brand called Vinut or Vinut, Vinut, because they have quite a range of what they claim to be premium non-alcoholic beer drinks. There's the premium one, there's a malt one, there's a raspberry version, there's a ginger one. It's not ginger beer, but it's beer with ginger and said to be spicy and refreshing. Now, this is a brand you can get some products in this country, in the UK. I don't know about the rest of Europe and I don't know about America, etc. But I definitely recognise the brand and the logo. I don't know if you can really get these drinks here either, but they're massive in Vietnam, South Asia, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, that kind of area. And again, probably sells pretty cheap, but probably shifts quite a lot, but specifically to certain markets. So again, it was just really difficult to know whether to drop them in or not. So a notable mention. So there's also some notable absences I want to kind of dive into. But any thoughts on that, Pete?
So there are some biggish names that I haven't heard you mention yet. Beck's would be one. Yeah. If we're looking at the UK, maybe Brewdog, although their NoLo stuff isn't as well known, obviously, as their standard stuff. Things big names like Carlsberg, who I'm not even sure if they do a NoLo beer, so that would explain why they're not in the list.
Very possibly, yeah. I mean, I thought the same with Carling as well. There were a few other names. I mean, this is me just sort of putting some names down in my notes. San Miguel, not on the list. Moretti, not on the list. Leffe. Now, I don't expect Leffe to be shifting huge numbers, but it's I'd imagine a pretty big European brand.
Sure.
So that's just, it's notable. I don't have loads to say about it, but worth flagging up. And one last point, actually, I wanted to flag up is that, you know what? There's hardly any ales. We've got Guinness on there and we've got Athletic, but it is a list predominantly of lagers, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is absolutely to be expected for two reasons. Firstly, they make very good NoLo lagers. As I said earlier on, basically, they're very successful in terms of replicating their standard counterparts. Yeah. And just generally, by far the most popular style of standard beer is lager, like massively so. It massively sells more than ales, whether or not they're kind of IPAs or whether they're sort of traditional British ones. So yes, it's absolutely to be expected, and no surprise to me that the vast majority of these are lager.